Animation isn't really a genre. Darkwing Duck, Family Guy, Dragon Ball Z, Batman the Animated Series. These are all very different shows and require a different approach to scoring. For the purpose of this episode, when I say animation, I'm referring to the Elvis Benny style of cartoons. Think Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. This style requires a lot of Mickey Mousing. I don't know where the term comes from, but it refers to underscoring every little action that happens on screen. For little accents, I usually place them right on the action.
Alexander, wake up! Alexander, agua! Hey, 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 hey!
Or maybe slightly early. For big accents, I often put them well after the action. A lot of the same principles of scoring film and other media apply to animation. More often than not, dialogue is king, whether you like it or not. Dialogue is always going to be favored in a mix, and everything else needs to move out of the way. That means that if your music is too loud or too busy, it's probably going to end up being buried in the mix. For that reason, it's always best to keep the dialogue in mind when writing, and avoid too much music when words are being spoken.
Elvis!
Elvis!
Oh, hey, 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 Scotty, Scotty! Ah, Scotty, Scotty, gravi! Benny White, Sandy, ahoy!
Ay, Captain Ahoy!
This isn't always easy. On Elvis Benny, dialogue wasn't recorded until after I had delivered the music, so I had to do a lot of guessing. I usually had the script for each episode, but very often the final show would end up very differently. Sound effects would always be the last audio to go in, long after I had written the music, so I had to guess a lot of the time there as well. I suspected in this scene, despite the request for music, that you wouldn't hear a lot of it in the final mix. I was right. I start writing by finding the tempo of the scene. Simply watch the scene and try to find the tempo by tapping my fingers. Most scenes have an inherent tempo. This is true for film as well, even if the movie wasn't edited to a temp track. I prefer to avoid tempo changes as much as possible, it just makes everyone's life a lot easier. Changes in bar signature are fine. I then sketch out the music. Usually I use piano, but sometimes I'll use an ensemble instrument, like an entire string section. I then start fleshing out the biggest moments, the ones that require the most instruments, and work backwards from there. I'm not afraid to make it too big. Whatever I can think of, I put it in. Done, I leave that part alone for a while, ideally until the next day, and then I revisit it with fresh ears and start removing everything that I feel isn't needed. That's it for this episode. Next up, the themes of Elvis and Benny.